Hello and welcome to Fight News Now Extra. I'm John Pollock. We have all the latest news in mixed martial arts with John Ramdine and Robin Black joining me to discuss. On the show today, a Glory champion states his MMA debut is coming up. Dana White comments on two of the coaches on Tough and a possible fight between them. And some more news on Fedor Emelianenko's deal with Nobuyuki Sakakibara. Dave Meltzer reported this week in the Wrestling Observer newsletter that the rumored figure Fedor Emelianenko is being paid for his fight on New Year's Eve is $2.5 million guaranteed. The news was made this past week that former Pride head Nobuyuki Sakakibara will be running a New Year's Eve event, which is rumored to be set for the Saitama Super Arena. A press conference in Japan is expected in early October to release more information, including their television outlet in Japan, if a deal has been made. UFC President Dana White recently spoke with Karen Bryant on FS1 discussing the coaching dynamic between interim featherweight champion Conor McGregor and Uriah Faber on the current season of Tough. Despite the rivalry growing between the two, White stated that he doubts the two will ever fight each other, stating that McGregor would like to fight Frankie Edgar if he gets past Jose Aldo in December and then expects McGregor to move up to 155 pounds. And Glory lightweight champion Robin van Roosmalen has announced that he will be making his mixed martial arts debut in 2016 and also thanked Glory for allowing him the opportunity to compete in MMA. The 26-year-old had been a professional kickboxer since the age of 16 and became the Glory lightweight champion in November of last year and has fought twice thus far in 2015. On Saturday night, tune in at 8 p.m. Eastern Time if you are in Canada for the prelim fights coming your way from the Saitama Super Arena. The UFC is back in Japan. 4 fights coming your way exclusively on Fight Network. All right, we're here with Robin Black and John Ramdine to discuss all of today's news. I guess we got the news from Dave Meltzer, 2.5 million reasons why Fedor Emelianenko not going to the UFC. And for all we know, whether it's a 1 or 2 fight deal over in Japan, it still opens up the door that he could still make that UFC money on the back end at the end of this deal if this promotion goes nowhere. But hard to fault a guy for turning down $2.5 million that everyone's getting on his case at this point. I mean, you can look at where everyone wants to see him fight, but I mean, how many people have been in that position where they're going to turn down a contract like that?
That's what it comes down to. And you look at, I know we were talking about it before, I think as fans, we want to see Fedor because we all have this idea that Fedor is still what he was in Pride, one of the best, if not the best pound-for-pound fighter on the planet. All the hardcore fans out there are hoping that Fedor has kept up with the trends, that he's evolving with the sport, and that he's at a stage now that he's ready to handle or hang with the best fighters in the heavyweight division. It looks to me that he could probably go down to 205 pounds, but for him to have this opportunity to fight for $2.5 million, and I'm sure he'll have some sort of input when it comes to to his opponent, and I think because of that, it makes the most sense. At the end of the day, these fighters are in here to compete, but they're also in here to make as much money as humanly possible, and Fedor has done that throughout his career.
I've never been the biggest Fedor guy, but I recognize the special skills that he has. But a lot of people have been who are now, they hate Fedor now. And some people will be like, yeah, man, who cares about $2.5 million? You should fight the best guys. Ask me how many fingers I would cut off for $2.5 million. Right. The truth is, I would cut off 4. These 2, so I'd always be given the double rock sign. But, like, I mean, seriously, $2.5 million?
Yeah.
Like, good for you, dude.
Yeah, the same people that was, these fighters are so underpaid are going to still argue, Fedor just took the money. You can't win.
Yeah, you can't win.
All right, let's move off from Fedor talk and look ahead to Saturday night / Sunday morning if you are in Japan and watching us maybe on YouTube, for instance. Josh Barnett and Roy Nelson. As we get closer, I mean, this is a very interesting heavyweight main event for myself, just to see where this fight goes, and the fact that it will be contested over 5 rounds. I think we're going to see a lot in terms of what Josh Barnett is still able to provide, because it's been a big gap in between fights for him. And conversely, Roy Nelson, this is a very important fight for him at 39 years of age, losing 5 of 6. That's a really tough stretch if you're Roy Nelson if he loses on Saturday.
Very true, and I expect him to lose. I think that when you look at the lineup, the head-to-head board, Josh Barnett has an advantage in every single area. He's younger, he's bigger, he's stronger, he's faster, he has a bigger reach, and I think the level of competition Barnett's faced over his career is just better than the guys that Roy Nelson has faced. And I think Barnett has a specific path to victory in this fight, and I expect him to to beat Roy Nelson up in this fight. And, it's like, well, where will this land Josh Barnett if he can get past Roy Nelson? You go out and smoke this guy, tap him out. You will be a part of that title conversation. The rankings mean absolutely nothing. You're as good as your last performance. And if you can dominate this former IFL champion, a guy that everybody that watches the sport knows, you're going to get a crack at the championship sooner or later.
Well, he was also mentioning the fact that, he was speaking to MMA Junkie that he's kind of, I'm done chasing titles at this point in my career. I think he's shortchanging himself. This is not 155 pounds, isn't 145 pounds.
Nobody's not going to chase them. Like, what can you do? These are things that are out of my control. I'm just going to chop them down.
My point is that this guy, he beats Roy Nelson. He gets a favorable fight against any of those kind of elite level heavyweights that we've been talking about.
Stipe, for example.
Boom, 2 wins in a row, and you're right there at the doorstep of a potential title opportunity. I don't think you have to do a whole ton of chasing. The title will find you
100%.
In the case of that heavyweight division and the way it's going to shake out over the next 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, the fight is great. And the more you look at it, the more you like it. I broke down 7 of Barnett's fights, and over 13 years, he just gets better and better and better. And when you're breaking them down, there's a lot of stuff people don't even talk about. Roy Nelson's not exactly a strategist. He's going to go in there and do what he's been doing and try to get that hand on him. Now, this is an undeniable fact. He's one of those guys who's proven it repeatedly, over and over. Look at a highlight reel. These 2 knuckles on this thing, you are separated from your consciousness. That's a real threat. That's a real aspect of this fight. But Barnett is so good, man. And little things, he moves his head and counters really well. Nobody thinks about that. The big man is not thinking about that either. He can go in there and do that, and then we see what he's been doing in Metamoris. I'd like to see this fight on the ground just to be greedy for fun. I would. It's a great fight, man.
The main card, it's also going to feature, I think, some interesting fights involving Kyoji Horiguchi, who's bouncing back from the Demetrius Johnson loss, taking on Chico Camus. I mean, that could very well be a sleeper fight of the night on Saturday. As well, we're going to be seeing George Roop against Takeya Mizugaki. I think Mizugaki, it's going to show where he's going to kind of find himself in that bantamweight division coming off those 2 losses. So you look at this main card, Uriah Hall, I think, has a golden opportunity against Gegard Mousasi. I think everyone is writing off
not gonna happen.
Uriah Hall.
Not happening.
You're not buying it
not
at all, are
happening
you?
At all. Right. I've been impressed with Uriah Hall because of the whole toe situation, but he's dealing with Gegard Mousasi, one of the most evolved fighters out there.
All right. He is Robin Black, John Ramsey, and I'm John Pollock. Enjoy the fights on Saturday night, and we'll speak with you on Monday.